Hello, students. Professor Stevenson here. With some unfortunate news, I have strep throat as well as my toddlers do, so I won't be able to make it into class tomorrow. But fear not, I have developed a plan to get some feedback on your drafts. So all of your drafts are still due before your scheduled class time. Okay, let me repeat that. All of your drafts are still due before your scheduled class time. Throughout the day, you will be working on peer reviewing your classmates' projects, okay? You will have until midnight that night. I will also take until midnight that evening, and I will put a couple of comments on your projects. So this Google Doc that I've put together helps us guide us through the peer review process. So there are two slides that I want to reference. So in order to be a helpful peer reviewer, I've developed a simple plan for how to comment on your essay, on each other's essays. Describe, evaluate, suggest, DES. So point out a problem. We'll all be doing this in Google Docs, so you'll be using the comment function. So just like I am, I will highlight the problem and I will push plus to add a comment. I can also push plus here, and I can also go insert comment. You will add a comment, and your comment needs to have all three of these elements. So describing in your own words what the writer is trying to say or what the assignment demands. Evaluating is the second part. Say how well the draft meets criteria or expectations. Suggest, offer a suggestion or a strategy to improve the draft. So if you can imagine, this takes at least 3 sentences. So these comments won't just be tiny one-liners or 2 words. They should be a little bit longer. So let's take a look at an example. Here are 2 examples that I have. So this comment from this person: it seems like you have strong feelings about food. Ha, so do I. So here, that's the describe. For the vending machine argument, I think about 1 student, 2 teachers, and 3 parents. Most students probably agree with you. Teachers don't care. Parents probably think vending machines are bad. So that's kind of the evaluate part. This is how the writer is doing in that section. The healthy vending machines might satisfy all 3 groups. So this is where they give them a suggestion to include healthy vending machines into their proposal. This was a proposal argument. The next one. There are 2 separate issues here: that you and your friends were hungry and having to buy new uniforms. That makes this a strong point. Okay, so that's the describe. What you seem to be arguing is that all arguments against junk food in school aside, vending machines have some value. Okay, so that's the evaluate. So that's what this person is doing. And then here's a suggestion. I'd look into healthy vending machines for your research. So they're suggesting that they do more research. So these are 2 good examples of comments. So what you will do below is the pairings for your peer review. Okay. Now I'm teaching 3 classes. If your name is not on here, it's because I'm putting 3 documents together for 3 separate classes, but I'm not recording 3 separate videos. So this is probably for a different class, but make sure you're looking at your document. You will be in groups of 3. Some classes, this class worked out where it's exactly an even 3. If you happen to be in a group of 4 or more, the goal is to read 2 papers. I repeat this. The goal is to read 2 papers. So what you're going to do is you're going to go into the Google Drive folder. Now this is for a different class. This isn't for any of your classes. And to find your other 2 group mates, open that up, and to place 5 comments on their essay, or on their report, excuse me. Um, they should use the DES system in the model I discussed above. So I want you to make sure they have all 3 elements. So they should be about 3 sentences each. I don't want you to duplicate other comments. So if somebody has told them that their methods section needs to be revamped in a certain way, if you agree with that comment and you agree with that suggestion, then move aside and comment on something else. If you take issue with that, now you can word it in a different way. Like, I actually think this issue is a little different. So you're describing the issue. What I think is the issue is that you have a good method section. You just need to be more specific with your language. So here's one problem, and maybe you quote from the text, so here's where you're really vague, right? So you're evaluating. What I would do is use more concrete words here about what you actually did. Perfect, okay? I want you to also try to focus on the nuts and bolts of the project, the report format, the report content, the way that they're incorporating sources. Now, if you come in as a reviewer and you see a lot less, you see like maybe this person is pretty far in their report, and that's awesome. And so you're like, your method section is really great. I don't want you to just heap on a ton of praise without giving them suggestions. Then you can go to sentence level stuff. So if they have like awkward sentences and stuff like that, or the way that they're phrasing things comes off funky, then that's fine. But do realize that we want to give them higher order things to do. So it could be organization stuff too. It could be APA stuff. But if they have less higher order stuff to do, it's fine to move on down the chain to sentence level stuff. I know when I'm looking, I'm probably going to only put about 2 or 3 comments on each of your papers, and it will mostly be me looking really specifically at the methods section, me looking really specifically at the results section, and me looking really specifically at the discussion section, mainly because I know that those are probably the newest things for you all, and they're the most likely for students to need some feedback on. And I also want you to understand that being a good reviewer means pointing out a specific problem and giving the author something that they can do about it. So you're not being mean and you're not being biting. You're just really helping them solve a solution. If you think your language is too mean, you can also go back and kind of, be really nice about it. That's why I have you go through those 3 steps, so that they know exactly what you're talking about, and we're working on clarity and giving them something to do. Finally, it's not required, but your final will be new next Friday. You'll want to sit down with your draft, so we'll all have our comments up Friday by midnight. And you'll want to sit down with your draft and assess the comments. What I tell students to do is make a list of things that they need to address in the order of priority. So again, if you're having comma problems, that's probably at the bottom, versus if your method section was incomplete, that's closer to the top. Or maybe your discussion section doesn't have clear analysis, right? Again, those things are clear at the top. Whereas, like even sourcing is probably towards the middle. It's not the first thing you want to work on, but it's something that you're probably going to get to. That's just in case. By the end of this, you'll all have about 10 plus comments on your paper, and each of those comments will probably give you something to do. Maybe you run out of time and you devote, a day to it or a couple of hours, and you get to 6 of those 10. I want to make sure that you're getting to the 6 most important priorities here, okay? So selection, prioritization, reflecting, okay? If you have time, like I said, it's not required of you. I want you to sit down and make this list. So, in summary, what we are doing is everyone will be turning in their rough draft before their scheduled class. You will have all day. Keep in mind, I meant this to take about an hour and 15 minutes because that's how long our class is. You'll have all day to look over 2 people's papers in your class. You're placed in specific groups with the hope that everyone gets a couple people to read their projects. If someone in your group didn't turn in your project, or you're in a larger group, remember, you only need to read 2 people's papers. So if you're in a group and one of the people didn't turn in their project, you go to that rough draft folder and you can pick any one you want. And you might want to pick somebody who doesn't have any comments on their essays yet, as opposed to somebody who maybe like 3 people have already commented on those. Okay? So I apologize for not being there, but I hope I get this to you in time enough that you don't have to make travel arrangements to come to campus. Thank you for your patience. I will be at home with my toddlers. We're all going to be recovering from strep throat, and I will be reading your projects later in the day, probably later in the evening. Have a good day.